Oisches. So the Rebbe explained previously what's happening on Rosh Hashanah is being mamshich, the highest level, the level of Zeh, and bringing it down into the level of Koi, so that the whole Maisa Bereshis is on a from a higher level, the Gilui of Atzmus, and we bring it into the world. And now the Rebbe is going to explain this also with the idea that we say on Rosh Hashanah is Binyan Hamalchus. Because we're talking about a higher level in Rosh Hashanah, the idea of Hamshochas Atzmus, this explains to us what the idea of Binyan Malchus is on Rosh Hashanah. If it is only Malchus, because world is being created again, because Maise Bereshis, and that is a level of Malchus, we have, why only Malchus? We need the other spheres that Rebbe will explain. But now it becomes clear, because since we need to be Mamshich, Ein Sof, that comes from Malchus. Malchus has a special, unique role and a special way of revelation, as the Rebbe will continue to explain. Ches. V'api hanal yesh levair gam ma sheyudua. Based on the above, we can explain that which is known, the Beresh Hashanah hu binyan hamalchus. That on the Rosh Hashanah we're building Malchus. What does that mean? The Kamoy Sheberosh Hashanah B'Pam Horishon. Just like Rosh Hashanah at the very first time when Adam on the first Rosh Hashanah was created, B'Pam Horishon. B'Yom Brei Adam Harishon, on the day that Adam Harishon was created. Hoya Hascholas Gilui Midas Malchusi Yisbarach Alidei Adam Arishain. That was the beginning of Hashem's measure, Midah, of Malchus became revealed at the Adam Arishain. Adam Arishain proclaimed and brought into the world, was revealed, was Megala, that Hashem is a Melech. Where do we see that? Because the Zehu Masha Omar Adam Harishain Oz. That's why Adam Harishain said at that time, Hashir Shel Yom Vav, the song that we say on Friday on in the Yom. So we say Hashem Havaya Moloch Geus Lovish. Hashem is the king. He dressed up with exultant. So we see that was an Adam Harishan brought about the level of Malchus. That means Binyan HaMalchus. Just like Adam Harishan brought about the Binyan HaMalchus, Al Derech Zehu B'chol Shana B'Shana. So similarly to this, every year and year, there's Binyan HaMalchus. Shebahayoim, the Rosh Hashanah, on the day of Rosh Hashanah, Hu Hamshochas B'chinas HaMalchus Mimikoiro, we draw down the level of Malchus from its source. Ayidei Yisrael. This happenings to the Yidden, just like that. Shekruyim Odom. Yidden Atem Kruyim Odom. Al Shem Odom Arishikinal. As never brought down before, they're called Odom because they are directly connected to Odom Arishin. And I said earlier, and therefore, we bring down Malchus just like Odom Arishin brought down Malchus. So that's the very simplistic connection. The Adam Arishim brought down Malchus, and we Adam bring down Malchus. Where do we see the Binyan HaMalchus? In the Dabnik. Zehu Shoemrim Batfilas the Rosh Hashanah. This is what we say in the Dabnik of Rosh Hashanah. Meloich al ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha. So be king over the whole world with your glory. So, which means we're making him a malchus, a king over the whole world. It's not only associate. This is a matter of becoming of binyan malchus to bring about the Ebersh's malchus in the whole of the world, and further meloich al kol haaretz, and say meloich al kol haaretz. So this is hamshochas from the level of malchus, like Adam Harishain. that he brought down Havaya Molech Geus Lavish, we're saying Molech al Kol Ha'aretz. And the Rebbe points out in the bracket, and we don't even wait. This is so much associated with Rosh Hashanah that we don't even wait for later on to say this tefillah, but immediately the inyan ze evrim, this idea of loich miyad b'tchilas Rosh Hashanah b'tchilas Arvis. We say this in the beginning immediately when Rosh Hashanah starts in Ma'ariv. The reason is lefishe iker ha'inyan de Rosh Hashanah hu hamshachas ubinyan hamalchus, because the main idea of Rosh Hashanah is to draw down and build Malchus. That's what's explained. The Maimorim say that Rosh Hashanah is being in a Malchus. Now, but we really need to understand what is this Binyan HaMalchus that is accomplished through Adam. Before we explained, he brings down the level of Zeh. So the Rebbe wants to articulate this now. Now, simply, it seems, why do we need Malchus in creation? Is because creation comes from the level of Malchus. But the Rebbe is going to associate Binyan HaMalchus specifically to the level of Zeh HaYom Techilas Masecha, the Adam Harishon's Mamshech from the level of Zeh. That requires the Binyan HaMalchus. Let's look inside. Hine. Api Hamevur Bekama Mekoima is based upon what's explained in many places. Mashma. Over there it seems Shashaychus the Rosh Hashanah Li'inyan Hamshachas HaMalchusi. What is the connection of Rosh Hashanah to the idea of drawing the Malchus? Is Lefisha Berosh Hashanah Hu Chidush Ma'aseh Bereishis. Is because on Rosh Hashanah there is a renewal of the act of creation, of the action of creation. We need to once again recreate the world, and that a major recreation. The world is recreated, a renewal of the Ma'aseh Bereishis. Shelachei Nikrot Techilas Ma'asecha. It's the beginning of your action. That's Ma'aseh Bereishis. And over here, we're doing this year, this day is the beginning of your action because Hashem is recreating the world. So that would be Achidush, the Klolus Ha'olamos V'Hisavusam Liyesh. That is the novelty. Generally, the worlds and they're being brought into being, made into a yesh. For that, we need Ma'aseh Bereishis. That is the Malchus that creates everything comes. That's what's the connection with Rosh Hashanah. That's on the simple level. We need to draw down Midas HaMalchus Lefi Shaisavus Kol Ha'olamos Himidas Malchus Yisbarach, because the creation of all the worlds that brought into being of all worlds comes from the level of Malchus, so that's why there's a renewal. It's Techilas Masecha. But the Rebbe is going to explain it's more than just, because on the simple level, for just Ma'aseh Bereishis Malchus, there is explanation needed for this. This explanation demands additional explanation. Shadei, if we're talking just about simple procreation, l'tzoirech ha'hishabos, tzorich liyes kol ha'midos. In order for the purpose of creation, we need all midos. Like the Pasuk says, that all midas were part in Hisabos Oilmis. The Pasuk says, Ki sheishis yomim oso havaya es hashamayim ve'esaretz. 6 days, Hashem made the heavens and the earth. The idea of 6 days are the 6 midas, v'yadua, and it's known, the sheishis yomim koi al sheish hamidas. that the 6 Yomim are referred to the 6 midos. The most shemehem nasu hashamayim va'aretz, from the midos, the heavens and the earth were made. The whole yoma v'yoma avidite. Each day and day does its work. So you have the day that does chesed, you have the day gevura, all of the 6 midos. So you have all 6 midos involved in creation. Ba'af al pish shebishvil hishavus ha'olamis tzarich liyas kol hamidos. So now you see that in order to bring the world into being, you don't need only malchus. You need all midos. Chesed, gevura, tiferes, all the 6 midos, yomim, in addition to malchus. Because I'm madgishim b'tfilah Rosh Hashanah, and yet, what do we emphasize in the davening Rosh Hashanah? Hamshachas HaMalchus Davke. We're talking about specifically about drawing the Malchus. So, if it's just for creation, why are we only talking about Malchus? In order for creation, the renewal and the Chiddush and the Ma'aseh Bereishis, the Techilas Masecha, look, we need everything. We need all the midos. An additional to that, another issue, another problem. Malchus itself has several components to it. The main component for creation is Dibur, the Dvar Havaya. So why don't we find anything just Malchus? The idea of Malchus that you need in order to create worlds will be Iker Bechinas Hadibur de Malchus. That's mainly the level of speech of Malchus, as it says in the pasuk, B'dvar Havaya Shomayim Nasu. The heavens was created with the Dibur of Hashem, which is V'heim HaSorem Amores Shobahem Nivra. Those are the 10 sayings with which the world was created. So it seems like if we're talking about creation of Malchus, that the Ma'aseh Bereishis, we should emphasize the Dibur of Malchus. But v'hadgosha b'Rosh Hashanah, but what do we emphasize on Rosh Hashanah? Maloich, Eloilin hadibur de Malchus. It's not on the concept of speech of Malchus, Kimaliyin HaMelucha. We're focusing just on Melucha itself. Maloich al hoilum, kulechulu, maloich al kol haaretz, all the Malchus, no dibur there. And also, even when we talk about dibur, which is the connection, most of them came before Rosh Hashanah, most of the Asorim Amoros. The Gam Benegela Dibur Malchus, also as it connects to the speech of Malchus, Harerubam Kekulam Shalom Amoris, Shabahem Nivra Ha'ilom, the majority, almost all of the Maimoris that with which the world was created, Hayu Lifnei Yom Vov the Ma'aseh Bereishis. They were before the 6th day of creation. So that aspect of Malchus is not on Rosh Hashanah, and we're really doing the Ma'aseh Bereishis, the Malchus, the Dibur of Malchus, which is creation. How does that connect with Rosh Hashanah, the other Dibur Malchus? Must be something else. There must be Malchus bringing down something else more than the regular Hishavos that we talk about. Things were created. So Rabbi is leading to. He say to Mizu, and even more than this whole Badvar Havaya is not associated especially with Rosh Hashanah. There's a new Nasorim Amoris. She's Havos, the Rebbe says in the bracket, she's Havos HaNevroim HaSorim Amoris. The bringing into being of the 10 sayings, he told me, is always Gam La'achre Sheshus Yimei Bereshis, even after the 6 days of Bereshis. So It's not like we're going to say on Rosh Hashanah, it's going to renew a creation that the Sodom Amoris, they need to be all the time because the known Toires Habasem Tov Hayidua, that he says that La'ilum Hashem Dvorcha Nitza Bashamayim, that the word of Hashem, that the Abish said Hirakia and Sodom Amoris, it's always in the Hashem's words is always there. That continuously creates that. So how could we say that this is on Rosh Hashanah, the Chiddush? It's always there. Mamer also we say this in addition to the Torah Sabal Shem Tov from Loyal Mavaya Dvor Chornitzov Bashamayim. It's also we say this in the davening Hamachadesh B'chol Yom B'tuve B'chol Yom Tamid Masei Bereshis, that the Eibishter in his kindness renews every day the Maaseh Bereshis. So we have Maaseh Bereshis renewed every day. So what's the connection to Rosh Hashanah? Veidu shezeu b'chol yom tamid davke b'chol rega v'rega, and it's known that this is davke every day, constantly, on every instant instant. So umazeh shaykh l'Rosh Hashanah davke. So what's the connection to Rosh Hashanah? So if we would just learn that the binyan malchus that we're talking about is the Chiddush of Maaseh Bereshis, which requires Malchus. But in Malchus, the Rebbe argues we also have the other spheres, and it's not only Malchus, Sheshes Yom, and Malchus itself needs to the dibur of Malchus, and we don't find the emphasis. All these points that it's not just the regular Maaseh Bereshis creation, and then you have the Sodom Amoris. Why is there not a focus on the dibur, only on the Malchus, and why? And it's really always what's Rosh Hashanah. All this points to the explanation that the Rebbe is going to explain that the reason we need Malchus Dafke, and the reason it's Dafke on Rosh Hashanah, is the higher level of Rosh Hashanah, the Zeh HaYom, the Adam, what the Adam brings down from the level of Zeh into the Kodesh. Rabbi, so we can say the explanation is here. The Zeh Sheberesh Hashanah Hu Binyan HaMalchus. This that Rosh Hashanah is the building of Malchus Shayich Zeh Be'ikar, that's mainly connected L'Zeh Sheresh Hashanah Hu Zeh HaYom. That it's Zeh HaYom, it's not just Techilas Ma'asecha, but it's the Zeh HaYom, the Mamshich from the level of Zeh, from Atzmus, Amshochas Atzmus Eir Ein Sof, bringing down the essence of the Eir Ein Sof, which is the Bechinas Zeh. To bring down the level of Zeh, that's the Binyan HaMalchus, what's happening on Rosh Hashanah, and that's specifically Malchus, as the Rebbe will explain, the specific. It's not the other spheres, because the level of Zeh, Amshochas Atzmus, is the level of Malchus, as the Rebbe explained. The Rebbe also brings it down now. These two aspects we're talking about, the Rosh Hashanah, the Maaseh Bereshis, the level of Koi, just the creation itself, and then the level of Zeh, to bring down the Zeh into the Koi. The Rebbe connects this also with another explanation, the two areas in the Mamer, in another area. Yesh lekasher, the rakas. Yesh lekasher zeh. We can tie this gam im habiur also with the explanation. As it appears, it seems like in many places, the explanation. The Hashayich is the Rosh Hashanah lebinyan hamalchus. What is the connection of building Malchus to Rosh Hashanah? It is Kibbutz Rosh Hashanah Hu Chidush Maaseh Bereshis. Because on Rosh Hashanah is the renewal of Maaseh Bereshis. So we'll see how to connecting these two aspects. The Hine Yedua Mashavur B'Sidr is known, that which is explained in the Sidr, in the Alter Rebbe Sidr, in the Mamer, in Bishar Hatkiyas, in the gate of Techilas, the Divrei Maschil Lov and Inyan Techilas Shofar Al Pi Kavonas Abba Shem Tov Zal. So it says over there, Zeh Shebirei Shashona Nasa Chidush the whole say that he Hayish Talshlus. When we say on Rosh Hashanah, there's the Chidush Ma'aseh Bereishis, which means all of the Hishtalshlus is renewed. Hu Be'iker B'Pnimi Yisraelam. It's mainly in the inner of the world, which means the world as we see it continues before Rosh Hashanah, after Rosh Hashanah. We don't see a visible external difference at Rosh Hashanah. All of a sudden, a world is created. No, it's not Bichitzed, it is Bipnemius. In the source of the energy and the vitality of the world, that is on Rosh Hashanah. That is what happens, the Alter Rebbe explains in the Mamer, in Lovni Tkiyah Shofar. That's mainly the Primisel. Elo, but because there is a renewal in the Pnimis Oilamos, Elo Shali Deze Nasa Chidush Gam Bechitzonis Oilamos. It also impacts, and there is a novelty in the externality of the world. What is the novelty? It is not a open revelation, it's not Chitzon, but Shaloyia Ba'oifen Derifya Yadayim, that the world should not be in a way, as you say, soft hands, weak hands. The Chitzoni Shalom should be sustained strong. So the Rebbe says, Valpizeh, Yesh lekasher shnei habiurim beinyan hashayches de binyan hamalchus l'Rosh Hashanah. So based on this Mamer over there that he talks about, there is two levels of Chitzonius hamalchus that is nischadish. And the Pneumius Malchus, we can associate it with the two things that happen at Rosh Hashanah explained over here. Yesh lekasha shnei habiurim beinyan hashayches, the binyan hamalchus Rosh Hashanah. That the two explanations that the Rebbe brought down as in the matter of what connects Malchus to Rosh Hashanah. So there's two. One of them is Rosh Hashanah hu achidush the Ma'aseh Bereishis. That on Rosh Hashanah there is the renewal, is created again, and also Rosh Hashanah amshachas b'chinazeh. The second there that it's brings down through the Odom zeh HaYom Techilas Masach zeh. So these two aspects are the two aspects of Rosh Hashanah. What happens? Ki achidush shebipnimi yisrael, the novelty, the renewal in the inner worlds, shaykh lamshachas b'chinazeh, that has a connection to zeh, whereas the chiddush in the Ma'aseh Bereishis, that's in the chitzonius of the world. So these two are connected. Whether this is the chitzonius or the pneumis of the world, it's either just the Ma'aseh Bereishis or the Amshachaseh, which is in the pneumis of the world. But now we understand that special connection to Malchus. Zehu sha'adgo sheberesh Hashanah inyan hamelucha shebe Malchus. Now we understand why the emphasis on Rosh Hashanah is on the part of Melucha Malchus. The Rebbe said before, we don't find about Dibur, we find about Melucha. Below Yala Dibur de Malchus, and not on the Dibur de Malchus. Ki ha'inyan de binyan hamalchus. Because when we talk about building Malchus specifically, the Melucha shebe Malchus, that's the Malchus itself, Hamshochas hamalchus mishorsha, to bring down the Malchus from its root. That's called building that Malchus. To bring down the Pnimius, to bring down from the level of Zeh, Shaykh Lamshochas Atzmus Eir Eisof. That has a connection to bringing down the Atzmus Eir Eisof. That's bringing down the level of Zeh. When we say building Malchus, meaning bringing down Malchus, that is bringing down Zeh. That Malchus has a special connection. The way to bring down Atzmus Ein Sof, that you have to build Malchus. Malchus brings down Atzmus Ein Sof. That's why this second aspect is emphasized. Meluch al kol olam, all about Melucha, not about Dibur, because it's not talking about the creations, but it's talking about Hamshachas HaMalchus from Atzmus. And for that, you need the level of Melucha itself, as the Rebbe will explain. I only this, not only Malchus comes from Atzmus, we're saying that how do you draw down Atzmus is through Malchus. Hagam Shakol Hasviris Ham Shachosam Hima Atzmus Eirisof. Even though all Sviris are drawn down from the Atzmus of K'mei like the pasuk says, Kimimcho Hakoil. From you is everything, meaning you Atzmus. All the spheres comes from Atzmus, not only Malchus. Why is Malchus drawn down Atzmus? Umikolshkein had dibur the Malchus, and certainly, for sure, the dibur of Malchus, which creates world, definitely comes nimshach from the Atzmus himself, because in order to have creation, you need to have the power of Atzmus. That's the dibur of Malchus, which are the 10 sayings in which the world was created from ex nihilo, from nothingness into existence, into a yesh, into an entity. Those have to come from Atzmos, because in order to create Ukiyadua, as known, the Bri Yesh Ma'ayin, to create something from Ayin is within the power of Atzmos. It's only Hashem and His power and His ability to create Yesh Ma'ayin with the power of Atzmos. So, why are we saying that it is Malchus, Meloich, the lineage of Melucha, brings down Atzmos? Alpha Pikain, but yet, Inyan Ham Shoche, the Atzmos Ein Sof, the idea of drawing down Atzmos Ein Sof, the level of Zeh, Shazo Inyan the Rosh Hashanah, this is the idea of Rosh Hashanah, that the Rebbe explained it, bringing down the level of Zeh. That has a special connection to the lineage of Malchus, not to the level of Dibur in Malchus, not to the other spheres, but specifically to the level of Malchus, as the Rebbe will continue to explain. Oistes. Yuvan Zeh Api Hamevur Bedrush Rabbi Seinu will understand this. Why is it Malchus that is Mamshech? The Atzmus, the Binyan HaMalchus, we need to build Malchus to bring down Atzmus Erisov Davke. We understand that Api Hamevur Bedrush Rabbi Seinu based on what's explained in the Maimorim of our Rebbes, our leaders, Binyan HaHefresh Ben Midas HaMalchus L'Shara Midas. In the idea, the difference between the midah of Malchus to the other midas. The Yeshloimar, the Nekudas Biurim Elohi. What is the point of this explanation? To sum it up, is Kimashikosu Kuveit Kedushas Melichomo Admur. Is like my father, the Rebbe, writes, B'divra Maschil, Shoifer Shel Rosh Hashanah, and the Mamer, which begins Shoifer Shel Rosh Hashanah. So there, the Rebbe writes the Mamer, Shemidas HaMalchus Chaluka Mikol HaMidas, in many different areas, Bisharsha, it's different than the first of all, in its root, it's different, the other Midas. Bimahusa, what it is, Ube'oifen Mahusa, and how the Metzias, how it came about, the entities that it is, this Rusa, how you arouse it in its arousal, and how to arouse it. This Galusa and its revelation, all these things, how it's revealed, its revelation, how it's revealed. All of these differences, he says, exist the Malchus in its root, its essence and how the essence comes about, the way you arouse it and how it's aroused, is revelation how it's aroused. Rabbi explains the root. Achilik b'shorshahu, what's the difference between Malchus and the others virus in the root, who the whole hamidas usfiras kululin ba'arich ampin. All of the midas and the spheres are included in the level of arich ampin v'chitzoni sakesa. But umidas hamalchus mushreshes b'radlo. That's rooted. The root comes from radlo. Reisha deloy isyada, a higher level than arich ampin. That's the chilik in the Shoresh. All midas comes from Arichampin, are included in Arichampin, and Malchus is rooted in Radlo. Achiluk b'mehuso u'b'metzias oifamohuso, who, what's the chilik in the essence and how the metzias is shekol midas usfiras, because all the midas and spheres gam k'moishe hein b'shorshom b'bchinas arich, even as they are in the root and level of arich, hein tes nahorim. They're 9 lights, so even in the root, they're still considered to be an entity of lights over there. There's tes nahorim. That's the root of this spheres. But midas hamalchus hirak nekuda. The midah of malchus is not a light; it's only a point. It's a level of not being an entity. That's the mehus and the way it is. The euphemus. Achiluk b'saruso b'euphemus ubisgalusu. What's the difference between when it's how it's aroused and how it's aroused, and the relation is the chol hamidas v'hasfiros b'seirim gam atzma. All the midas and the spheres, they can be awakened, aroused all by themselves. You don't need somebody else to arouse them on their own. They can work. They can wake up on their own. And therefore, that's why they can be aroused something which is not of their relationship, is not of their compared to them, and yet because they don't need something to arouse, they can be responsive to something which is not of their level. His galusum, and also the way they come out, higam al masheinam erkom klal, they can be revealed on something which is not of their level, not compared to them at all. So the measure of malchus, how to bring it about, it needs to be through something else. Hirak al yidei hazulas doesn't come; it needs to be someone else. And because it has to come from somebody else, it has to be from somebody that has some value, that is connected, because it's what wakes it up, what arouses it is something, and I must touch it. So the way it's aroused, it's only from something which is in the compared to the spheres, to the malchus. The malchus can only be, it needs to be aroused by something, so it can only be aroused by something which has a comparison to it. And also the revelation of malchus is only in something that's its value. As the Rebbe will see soon, you can't be aroused. You can only be aroused by human beings. You can only be a king on human beings. That there has to be something from the outside, and something that has an erech, has a value, a connection to you, to arouse you. Who his galuso, and what's the difference? The way it is revealed in the way. So Shakol hamidas hashpo vagilu shalahem hibikiru. That all the midas, the way their flow and their revelation, it's in a way of closeness. Ukemoy, for example, hashpo the midas hachesed, the flow that comes from the measure of chesed. Shemitzad hergesh hakiruf da mashpia lamakabel. That is the feeling of closeness of the one who is giving the influence, the one who's the supplier to the recipient, to the makabel. The same thing is true. All the midas, it's a matter of closeness. Even the hashpa that comes from the measure of stringency, from strength, that's also because of the feeling closeness and close. A father will discipline his son, it's gevura, but it's all because of that closeness. As opposed to the measure of melucha, the way it influences and the revelation is on a distance, it separates. Exaltness and raising above. You're a king. The king, the malchus, is a king over, doesn't connect, it doesn't lower. Its exaltness is the opposite. So what's the reason, the cause for all these differences? Midas hamalchus lishar hamidas, between the measure, the midah of malchus and the other midas. That is comes from the difference among them and their root. Since the root of malchus come in the ratio the yado, and the Rebbe adds, it's in a place the b'chinas radlo who loirak ratio the yado. It's not only a head on the top that has not been known, elagam ratio the yoda. The ratio, it's a level that doesn't know, which means the Metziz is loy. It's not a known entity for himself. It's not only it's not known to us, but it's not known as loyoda, not known to itself. And because it comes from radlo lachein, gam kemoy shabo b'bechinas hamshocha. Also, the way it comes down, as it's drawn down, mehuso mitzius mehuso, its essence and the existence, the entity of its mahus that it became. It's in a level of loy. That is what the midah of malchus, coming from a level of loy yada loyoda, coming from a level of lack mitzias. Even when it comes down, it's a mitzias that is not a mitzias. In order to be aroused, why they as well as dafke. So on its own it can't, because it's a non-entity. It needs another person, another item, zula, something else to arouse. That's why the way you arouse it and it's revealed, needs to be an entity, something else, which has a connection, which is a comparison, which is in its level. Behind that is the kol hamidas, all the midas, mikim on she'etzem hamida v'gam hisoyre ruso. Hime odom atzmai, since the midah itself and the arousal of the midah comes from the person himself. Talking about now by a person to be ma'oder. It can come by itself. The measure of chesed rachmim shesheyochin gam hisoyre shalahem gam b'lizolos. It's fitting that also they apply. You can have chesed v'rachamim and also to arouse them. Without gam b'lizolos, you don't need somebody else. That's why it doesn't hold back. Doesn't matter what is the item that he's being kind to and compassionate on and having mercy on, because it's not that zulas that was ma'ored it, and it's something which is on his own. And they also apply to living things, animals, even though they're not compared to the person. As opposed to Midas Malchus, since it comes from the outside, that needs to be Shazulas, that this outside force, the one that is aroused in the Midas Malchus, and the one the Midas Malchus reveals on it, needs to be in this comparison. The Melucha Shayches Rak al Mina Odom Beloya Balachayim can only be on the human beings and not on animals because it is aroused by a Zulas that has an Erech, and it can only apply to the Zulus who has a comparison. Gam Tzorich Lias Shazulus Ye Nifra Davke. Also, the Zulus needs to be separate. Ein Melech Beloy A king cannot be without a people. People means separate, distinct from it. It can't be a king on his children. But you cannot be a king over children. You can't have a king that this idea that it needs to be separate also and not on children is shaykh gam lo'ofen is galus amlucha. That also has the connection to way malchus gam lo'ofen is galus amalchus. Zeh shpoas the malchus bechinas erichel davke. The fact that malchus hashpo is in a distant, not a'am, oinim is separate, not boni. Gam in zeh, so also this idea that it comes in a way of distance, separation, exaltus nasus. That point also is connected to the fact that the root of Machs Radlo. Because this idea of being raised over the people, that comes because Nas Atzmis, which come from the level of Radlo, and that is the Shoirish of Malchus, and that's also why Malchus cannot be on Boni, because it has to be on Dover Rochik, it has to be in a way of Isnasus. But the Shoirish has to come from something from Azulas, and that's why it has to be something which is Berach, but not in the way of closeness, not at Bonim, as the Rebbe will continue to explain.